Hello? Okay. Hi guys. So this is going to be part 3 of our FPS tutorial because I just can't keep consistent with the first FPS tutorial I ever made and with the second series, so maybe, third time's the charm, so maybe series 3 I'll actually be consistent and not just skip to series 4 because, third time's the charm, so yeah. So, if you've watched the previous series, you probably already know we gotta, click on the base plate. If you haven't clicked on it, so just click on it. So, Roblox Studio, just all templates, just click on base plate. So, once our base plate is loaded here, you'll see a screen that might look like this. You have this output window here, this toolbox window, this explorer window, this properties window, all sorts of stuff, this big, all these options, everything. So first of all, in this explorer window, you're going to want to press this arrow in starter player, and this thing called starter player, and then you want to scroll down using the scroll bar or using the scroll mouse thingy majibber, or for laptops, for me, because I have a laptop, I'm going to use my touchpad and use both my fingers to scroll down, so I'm going to put both of my fingers on the touchpad and then move them up, and then I'm going to click on Starter Player Scripts and click on this little plus sign that's appearing and hit the local script button here. So basically what this means is that we're going to have a script that runs on the player. So a normal script would it's just kind of a normal script. Whatever you do in it, it changes something. In a local script, it's kind of something that only happens to a specific player playing the game. So whenever I play a Roblox game here, just to show you, I'm going to play the Roblox game, test it out. Whenever I play it, there's two things. So there's the server I'm actually playing on. So the server allows me to see the world and see all the other players. There's no one else in my little Roblox test here. It's just me, but yeah, it allows you to see the world and all and everything. And the client is your player, so it's like what happens on your screen, what happens to your character. It's like it happens to you specifically. It doesn't happen to anyone else, just you. So that's basically what a local script is. And if you don't get it, you might want to search up maybe a tutorial, not a tutorial, like some explanation video. I know there's a few out there. So you can just search up on YouTube or Google Roblox local script, and maybe it'll probably give you some results. But anyways, inside this local script, inside Star Player Scripts, first of all, there's going to be this line of code called print hello world, and we don't want this, so you can just select over the line and delete it. So that will just make our line just not exist anymore. It's gone, and that's good. We don't want that. So let's start writing our local script. So first of all, we're going to want to wait for the game to load, because if we start doing stuff when the game hasn't loaded, it could cause issues. So to do that, what we're going to do is that we're going to repeat the, hold on, let me just delete all that, sorry. So we're going to use the repeat function, and then repeat wait, close opening parenthesis and closing parentheses, and also make sure there's a space here, and then press space until game, and then you're gonna want to do a, I think, semicolon it's called. Just hold shift and then that key next to L, that's not K, remember, not K, and then type capital I is loaded, and with a capital L for loaded. So what this will do is that it'll wait until the game is loaded. So if you read this logic, it kind of makes sense. So repeat wait until game is loaded. So repeat this repeat waiting until the game has finally loaded. So yeah, so now what we're going to do is create something called a variable. So a variable is basically something that we can store data and stuff in. So to create a variable, all you have to do is just type in the variable name. So for example, I'll just type out name and then space equal space and then the value of our variable, because a variable can store something, so we need to actually give it to something to store. So we can store a lot of things. We can store like numbers, we can store text, we can store objects. There's like a bajillion things you can store in a variable, but we're not going to be getting into all those things because there's a lot of stuff to learn if we're going to be getting into those things. So for now, we're just going to use basic objects, variables, numbers, and text. So you can store a number. We can store the number 1. We can store 2. We can store 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can really store any number. Like, we could even store this gigantic number, like 999999999 something. But of course, we don't need to store such a big number. This is just an example, and you're probably not going to have to store a number as big as 999999999. And even if we are going to have to store something like that, you could always use something called math.huge, which basically means infinite. So if I want name to be an infinite number, I could type math.huge, which will basically make name infinite. It'll just keep on going. So to actually see your variable, I'll change the name back to 1. To see your variable, you can use something called the print function, which basically allows you to put out text, put out numbers, put out anything you can really put in a sense of text. And what happens is that it'll put that text that you want to print out, either it's a string, so text, or a number, so like name. It'll put it out here. If you notice that before we deleted that hello world thing, it put hello world here. That's because we're printing out the text hello world. So yeah, so let's print out name and see what that gives us. So as you can see, it print out 1. And if we go back to the script, it kind of makes sense because name equal to 1, and we're printing out name. So if name is equal to 1 and we're printing out name, then it's going to print out 1. And we're not just limited to 1, or no, we can really put any number again. Like, we can go back to that math.huge thing. And a tip here is that instead of always having to play the game to test some code out, or, well, because this is a local script, you are going to have to play the game, but if you're ever using server scripts and it doesn't have anything to do with players, you can click on this arrow and click run, and basically that'll just allow you to not have to always wait for this game to load and wait for everything to, do its stuff. As you can see, math.huge is infinite, so when we printed out the math.huge, or the name, it just printed out inf, which just stands for infinite. So now once we've got the basics of variables, we're going to probably use the variables. Like, I'll show you how to use the variables in the practical use. We're going to be using it for the FPS framework we're building. So first of all, this is just kind of me, but I like putting local and then a space and then my variable name and then equals to the value, blah blah blah, because it just looks, oh sorry, just looks a bit better. I like it a bit better. It doesn't change anything. You could always just, not use local, but I like that. If you want to know what local actually does or changes about the variable, in this sense, it doesn't change a single thing. But well, I'll explain you what local does in probably a later video, considering that this is going into the depths of things, a lot more complicated things that we're probably going to be learning later. So yeah. So now, to store text, because yes, you can store text in a variable, you want to hold shift and press the quotation marks, and what that'll do is that'll bring these two quotation marks in. In the middle of these two quotation marks, you can put whatever text you want. So, for example, I'll just put, here, hold on, sorry, epic variable. I'll put that. So, if we play our game, then what I'll do is that it'll print out, well, epic variable. So, yeah. And we can also store objects using name. So how do we store an object? Well, there are a few ways we can store an object. First of all, in order to store an object, we need to know what object we actually want to store. So I think I'll just store this spawn location object, which is this object here. So the spawn location. So this like big part where all the players spawn on is called a spawn location. So I think I will probably store our variable as the spawn location object. So I'll go back to our local script. So now once we know what object we actually want to store, we need to actually, store that object. So in order to do that, we need to know the location of where we're storing the object. So to figure out the location, let's take a look at the object. So it looks like the object is in this thing called workspace. It's in this workspace thing. It's not in players, not in lighting, material, service, replicated first, storage, whatever all this stuff is, it's in workspace. So in our local script, that probably means we need to type workspace.spawn location to find the spawn location to get it. So, and if you thought of that, then, well, you're exactly right. That's what we need to do. So to do that, we'll just delete the epic variable thing. We need to type workspace. You can either do it with a capital W or a lowercase w for the work dot spawn location. And now we've stored this spawn location object. Now to test out this variable and this spawn location object, we can just delete the print statement and type name equals to T or D. Just put some random stuff in there. So what they'll do is that it'll change this object's name, that is spawn location, to whatever is in these quotation marks. So let's test that out. So when we're playing the game, we might not be able to see any change, but if we look inside the workspace, we can see that our spawn location's name changed from spawn location to this random string we put in our script. And if you want to see actual change in game, what we can do is that we can change the color. So to change the color, we need to change something called the brick color. So type brick color equal to brick color dot, and then you can just choose any random color here. I'll choose red. So once we do that, we can hit play again. And then, as you can see, now our spawn location is red. Now it's red, it's the color red, and you can really do this on any object, as long as, of course, it's an actual part object. You can't change the color of the workspace, because I'm not sure how you would do that. But basically, you can also change this base plate thing, which is like a super gigantic big part. It's like this gigantic ground part here. So we can do that. So we can change this from spawn location to base plate, and then run our game once again. Now the base plate is red. And you can change this to green, you can change it to white, all sorts of stuff. And it's not just a brick color, you can also change other properties. You're free to change all these properties, of course, as long as they don't give errors or you're not doing it wrong. Or you're doing it wrong. Sorry. So you can really change all these properties as long as it's changeable and it doesn't cause errors. You can really change all of these and just mess around with these. You can change size, you can change the position, the orientation, which is like the rotation. You can change the transparency, reflectance, material variant, material. Well, I'm not sure if you'll see material variant because that's kind of a beta developer's feature I have on. Chances are you won't have it on. You can change the color. So whenever you click on this color property, you get this kind of color picker, and you can choose anywhere from red, from yellow, from green, from blue, from dark blue, from pink, from red again, and then you can go down here to get slightly faded versions of the colors, and then you can also go down here and change this slider to all the way up here to just get complete white. So you can really mess around with these. You can change the color to anything you want. I think I'm going to change it right here. I'm going to put that right there. So it's going to make the base plate very yellowish. Very yellow. So now, for now, that's basically all we have for the first FPS framework tutorial. This is just kind of a basics tutorial. Not really an FPS tutorial. We did barely anything related with an FPS. In the next episode, we are going to actually get into the FPS stuff, but this is just kind of maybe just a little teaching for just lower people who don't know how to script as much. You shouldn't really go to these tutorials. If you don't know how to script much, then you shouldn't. You should probably watch some beginners tutorial series, maybe made by Alvin Blocks or the Dev King or B Ricey or something like that. Because making an FPS framework requires a lot of complex information that you probably just don't have at the start. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully you can use this and learn from it. And then, well, in the next episode, we're going to actually start building the framework. Well, yeah, so then, goodbye.